This is a review for the third One Piece movie with the longest name yet, Chopper's Kingdom on the island of strange animals. If you're just joining me for the first time, this is the series where I go through and review every One Piece movie, and keeping with the theme so far, I think I enjoyed this one more than the prior two I've discussed. This was released on March 2nd, 2002, coming out the same week that Luffy decided to head toward the sky after seeing the falling ship in the manga, and when some weird poneglyph Alabasta desert filler went down in the anime. This movie goes against the grain of the previous two movies in ways that I found exciting, but at the same time, it manages to fall for tropes that make these movies very predictable, and at times, it did feel like this movie was going through the motions. The biggest difference is apparent in the title, a strong focus on Tony Chopper. I surprisingly have a lot to say about this under 1 hour movie, so let's get into it. This movie begins in media res. Nami has found some treasure map before the movie started, because all these movies apparently need to be framed around some vague treasure that is never important. The crew, now consisting of their newest addition, Dr. Chopper, are eager to travel to the Crown Island to find this treasure. This movie is the most impossible to place even in your headcanon. Chopper's aboard the ship, which means the crew should either consist of Vivi and Karu or Nico Robin. None of them are here, which I thought was strange. At the time, the anime was just ramping up the Alabasta arc, and Sanji is even rocking his Mr. Prince shades, so from a sheer marketing perspective, it feels like including Vivi would have been the smart move. I also would have liked to see her, would have been nice to have her in one of these movies, but alas, we are Vivi-less. One more thing about the meta of this movie before getting further into the plot. Like the previous movie, the budget for this far outpaces the typical anime episode, and I think it looks pretty good. Although, I do think they went a little bit too hard on the shading for the character models. Everyone looks a little too glossy. So, this movie is framed around Chopper coming into his own as a pirate. He's scared about setting off on this adventure, and again, with the continuity, it's a bit strange. The way he's acting makes it feel like they just left Drum Island. The story puts Chopper to the test when the Mary goes soaring over Crown Island and Chopper goes flying off onto the land below. This is an island filled with animals, some of whom can talk and some of whom either cannot or are just shy. Their king has recently died, but there is a legend about the coming of a new king. After a misunderstanding with getting a sharp rock jammed up his ass, the animals of this land believe Chopper to be that king sent from the heavens. The rest of the Straw Hats explore the island, and I think the animal designs are pretty fun. I appreciated that the location was getting some attention here. Part of the fun of One Piece is exploring new settings, which I feel the prior two movies really glossed over. Things proceed with Chopper being flattered into taking care of some of the injured animals and serving as the de facto ruler. This is where we meet the mandatory One Piece movie young boy, Mobambi. He's a wild child who lives with the animals and becomes pretty infatuated with Chopper right away, but has a deep hatred for pirates because his zoologist father was killed by some. Meanwhile, the others come across a horn-hating horde of bad boy beasts. These monsters hunt only animals with horns and are under the control of PETA's #1 enemy. The bad boys for this movie are Lord Butler, General Hot Dog, and President Snake. Yes, I believe I read somewhere that all the names were created by a 4-year-old. Lord Butler is the leader who eats horns. He is also a zoologist who is after the crown treasure, which apparently has something to do with horns. The other two creeps are just mandatory obvious foils for Sanji and Zoro. There are some shenanigans, but essentially the Straw Hats get away from those bozos and find Chopper. Mobambi automatically hates those scurvy dogs and doesn't want them to take Chopper away from him. Luffy also does his classic wrong name thing and calls Mobambi Mont Blanc. This is like right before the Straw Hats even arrive at Jaya in the manga, and the script had to be written and recorded long before that, so I don't know if this is just a coincidence, but if it is, that's pretty wild. Anyway, then the Goon Squad arrives and the action begins, but surprise surprise, Luffy is stuck. But this time, he's keeping Zoro and Sanji tucked behind his fat body. In order to protect everyone from the Horn Eaters, Chopper leads the villains away from the animals. After speaking to Lord Butler, who somehow knows more about the tradition and treasure of this island than its inhabitants, the animals realize Chopper isn't their true king and just go to leave, but Mobambi is like, hey, we like that guy, and he just helped us out. And if you like this video and don't want to see me eaten by horned beasts, please press the like button. It's the only thing that keeps them at bay. Now, it's time to take down the villains. Luffy gets hypnotized by the music that controls the Horn Eaters because his brain is on the same wavelength as an animal, which I thought was a fun joke. So, once again, he's useless for a bit. Nami and Usopp actually manage to take out the Horn Eaters. Usopp uses his boomerang that doesn't come back to lead the horny boys away, and Nami uses some bullshit calculations to make the perfect landslide trap. Meanwhile, Zoro and Sanji engage in some one-on-one battles with their respective bad boys, and these were so boring. They last for maybe 1 minute each, and they both go the exact same way. Zoro and Sanji are both getting their asses kicked, until they aren't. It really felt like these fights were a studio mandate, because it seemed like no one had any fun writing or animating them. The villains are paper thin and don't bring anything to the table. It just felt like the script had no idea what to do with Zoro and Sanji, so they decided to put them in the most half-assed battles I've ever seen from this series. But the final battle is definitely the best big boss battle in any of the movies yet. Lord Butler eats the crown treasure, which is the old king's golden horns, and transforms. Now he's some kind of weird beast boy, and I think the animation for this sequence is pretty stellar. This fight definitely took some inspiration from the first Luffy versus Crocodile fight, because the first round ends with Luffy getting stabbed and falling away. This is when Chopper and Mobambi step up to take on Lord Butler, and I thought this was a great scene. This is really the crux of both of their arcs. Chopper stands up for his friends, and he isn't afraid to fight against their enemies, while Mobambi learns that it was Lord Butler who killed his father, so now he has no reason to hate pirates. Aww. Luffy reappears to finish the fight. He crushes Lord Butler's horns, which causes a horrifying denigration of his body, and while this is happening, Luffy launches him into the distance, bazooka style. Like all these One Piece movies, the conclusion is very quick. Chopper and Mobambi have themselves a good cry, and Mobambi is crowned the new king. The end. I thought this movie was a pretty entertaining time. I think the two biggest strengths of this film are the strong focus on Chopper and the setting itself. Since this is Chopper's first movie, I thought it was nice to give a character arc to this lovable raccoon, and you could tell that this whole movie was really crafted around showing him off. While the structure of the story isn't really unique, as it hits all the major beats of previous movies, the side characters, villains, and setting were clearly designed to highlight Chopper. Speaking of the setting, it's just a fun and interesting place for the Straw Hats to visit. It's far more interesting than the bland and nothing Island from the first movie, and while Clockwork Island from the second movie may have been more interesting, it was never explored nor focused on, so at best, it was untapped potential. The titular Island of Strange Animals is made integral to the plot of the movie, rather than just set dressing that really could have been anywhere, and I appreciated that. The setting is the secret sauce that makes most One Piece arcs great, so it's nice to see the movies really finding their groove with that. Hopefully, it continues into the future. The negatives of this movie are really just the cliche storytelling tropes that the series can fall into when written by someone other than Oda. If you've seen the prior movies or any early filler, you know what I mean. It's a lot of paper-thin cartoonish villains and obviously set up fights that go exactly how you'd expect them to. These elements aren't horrible, and they don't ruin the movie, they are just by far the least interesting part. Something tells me these aspects are also going to be the hardest for these movies to shape. You obviously need Zoro and Sanji to fight in a movie, people want to see them battle, but something needs to be done to make these fights more unique. Honestly, I think that problem could be fixed by fixing the problem with the villains. I think developing villains with more unique personalities and motivations would naturally lead to improved conflicts. But I'm not here to fix the problems with 20-year-old movies. Hopefully, they got the message a long time ago, or else I'm in for a real treat with the next 12 movies. Overall, I enjoyed Chopper's Kingdom on the Island of Strange Animals. On the scale of out-of-canon anime movies from the early 2000s, I'd say this is a solid 7.5 out of 10. But what did you think? Where would you place it on the long-named scale? Please let me know, and thank you so much for watching. My review of the next movie, Dead End Adventure, will be up tomorrow. So until then, I'll shut up.